They didn't kill me immediately. That's the first thing you need to understand. People like them don't act out of emotion. They plan, they observe, they wait, and by the time they finally make a move, it's already too late for you to escape. I didn't know I was going to die that night. If I did, I wouldn't have sat at that table smiling like an idiot, pretending everything was normal. I wouldn't have picked up that glass. I wouldn't have trusted them. But I did, because they were my family. My name is Ethan Cole. At least, that was my name in my last life. The biological son of the Cole family. The real heir. The one who was supposed to inherit everything. Until Daniel arrived. I was 11 when they brought him home. I still remember the sound of the front door opening that evening. The rain was pouring heavily outside, and my mother walked in first, holding an umbrella. Behind her was him. Thin, pale, wearing clothes that were clearly too big for him. Ethan, my father called. Come here. I walked down the stairs slowly, curious. I thought maybe we had guests. Maybe relatives. But then my mother smiled at me. And something about that smile felt unfamiliar. This is Daniel, she said softly. He's going to be your brother from now on. I blinked. A brother? She nodded. I looked at him. He didn't say anything, just stood there quietly, watching me. Then he smiled. And for some reason, my chest tightened. I didn't understand it back then. I thought maybe I was just nervous. Children don't trust their instincts. They ignore them. That was my first mistake. At first, things felt normal. Or at least, I tried to convince myself they were. My parents gave him my spare room. Then they redecorated it. Then they bought him new furniture. Then they started spending more time with him. He needs attention, my mother would say. He's been through a lot. I didn't argue. I didn't complain. I didn't want to seem selfish. But slowly, things started changing. My birthday came. It passed quietly. No celebration. Just a simple, happy birthday, at dinner. A month later, Daniel's birthday arrived. The house was decorated. Guests filled the living room. There was music, laughter, a massive cake. I stood in the corner that night, watching everything, watching him. He looked happy, comfortable, like he had always belonged there. And my parents, they looked at him like he was the best thing that had ever happened to them. That was the moment I realized something. I was being replaced, not suddenly, not violently, slowly, carefully, like I was being erased. One piece at a time. Years passed, and that feeling never went away. If Daniel made a mistake, it's okay, he's still adjusting. If I made the same mistake, why can't you be more like your brother? I stopped trying after a while. There's a point where you realize, no matter what you do, it won't matter. So I adapted. I became quiet, observant, careful. I started paying attention to the way my father spoke to him differently, to the way my mother smiled at him more warmly, to the way the staff treated him with more respect. And Daniel, he noticed too. Of course he did. He wasn't stupid. In fact, he was the smartest person in that house. He just hid it well. In front of my parents, he was gentle, soft-spoken, grateful. In front of me, he was something else entirely. I remember one night clearly. We were both in the hallway. No one else around. He stopped walking, turned to me, and smiled. Not the same smile he gave our parents. This one was different. You know, he said quietly, they love me more. I froze. He stepped closer, his voice calm, almost curious. Does it bother you? I didn't answer. I didn't know how to. He studied my face for a few seconds, then laughed softly. It's okay, he said. You'll get used to it. And then he walked away. That was the first time I truly understood. Daniel wasn't just my replacement. He knew he was, and he enjoyed it. Years passed, and everything I feared became reality. By the time we were adults, there was no comparison anymore. He was the perfect son, the future of the family, the one my parents trusted with everything. In me, I was just there, a leftover, something they hadn't thrown away yet. But deep down, I always felt it, that something wasn't right, that this wasn't just favoritism, that something bigger was happening behind the scenes. I just didn't know what it was. Until that night, the night everything ended. It was a quiet evening. Too quiet. My mother insisted we have dinner together. All of us, she said. That alone was strange. We hadn't had a proper family dinner in months. But I didn't question it. That was my second mistake. The table was set perfectly. Candles lit, wine poured, everything looked normal, too normal. Daniel was already seated when I arrived. He looked relaxed, almost amused. My father sat at the head of the table. My mother beside him. I took my seat. Dinner started. They talked, laughed, acted like a real family. And for a moment, I believed it. I thought maybe I was wrong. Maybe things were finally going back to normal. Then my father poured me a glass of wine. Drink, he said. I didn't hesitate. That was my third mistake. The first sip tasted normal. The second, slightly bitter. By the third, something felt wrong. My vision blurred. The room started spinning. I tried to speak, but my voice wouldn't come out. I looked up, and that's when I saw it. They weren't smiling anymore. They were watching me, silently, calmly, like scientists observing an experiment. My heart started racing. No, I tried to say, but it was too late. My body stopped responding. I collapsed onto the table, and the last thing I saw was Daniel, leaning back in his chair, watching me, smiling, not hiding it anymore. You should have just stayed quiet, he said. Darkness swallowed everything, and in that darkness, I made a promise. If I ever got another chance, I would make them regret it. Every single one of them. I didn't expect to wake up. That's the first thing that confused me. Death felt final. It wasn't like sleeping. It wasn't like fainting. There was no drifting, no dreaming. One moment I was there, feeling the burn of poison in my veins, watching my own family stare at me like I was nothing, and the next. There was nothing, no sound, no light, no time, so when I opened my eyes again, I thought it was a mistake. The first thing I felt was warmth. Soft, gentle, like sunlight resting on my skin. Then came the sound, a slow, steady beeping. Then voices, stable now. Lucky he woke up, head injury could have been worse. I frowned, my head felt heavy, my body, weak. I tried to move, pain shot through me instantly. He's waking up, my eyes snapped open, white ceiling, bright lights, the faint smell of antiseptic. A hospital. I blinked slowly, once, twice. This wasn't right. I remembered dying. I remembered the wine, the poison, the way my body shut down. I remembered Daniel's voice. You should have just stayed quiet. My breathing became uneven. No, this didn't make sense. I forced myself to sit up. A nurse rushed over immediately. Sir, please don't move too fast. Where am I? My voice came out hoarse. She paused, then answered carefully. New York General Hospital. You were in an accident. An accident? My brows furrowed. That word didn't belong to me. I died. I didn't crash a car. I didn't fall. I didn't get hurt. I was killed. What's my name? I asked suddenly. The nurse looked confused. Ethan, she said. Ethan Carter. Carter, not Cole. Something inside me went cold. I slowly looked down at my hands. They weren't mine. The shape, the scars, the skin tone, everything was different. My heart started pounding. What year is it? I asked. 2026, she replied. I closed my eyes. I died in 2023. 3 years. 3 years, gone. I wasn't dreaming. I wasn't hallucinating. I wasn't alive. I was reborn. The realization didn't hit me all at once. It came slowly, like a cold hand wrapping around my throat. Different name, different body, different life, but the memories, still there, every single one. The dinner, the poison, Daniel's smile, my mother's silence, my father's eyes, it all came rushing back. I gripped the bed sheets tightly. They killed me, not by accident, not in anger. They planned it, and now, I was back. The doctors kept talking, explaining things. You were hit by a car. Minor brain trauma. You've been unconscious for 2 days. I didn't care. None of it mattered, because only one thought kept repeating in my head. Why? Why was I back? Why did I remember everything? Why did I get another chance? When I didn't even understand my first death. Days passed. I played along. I acted confused. I asked normal questions. I behaved like someone recovering from an accident. But inside, I was watching, thinking, rebuilding. This body belonged to someone else. Ethan Carter, 24 years old, an orphan, no family, no connections, no one who would question anything. I almost laughed when I realized it. No family, no one to betray me, no one to kill me. Perfect. But then, I found something. On the 3rd day, a phone, mine, or rather, his. I turned it on slowly. Scrolled through messages, photos, contacts, nothing unusual, until I opened the gallery. That's when I froze. There was a picture, blurry, taken from a distance, but I recognized it instantly. A mansion, large, familiar, too familiar. My chest tightened. I zoomed in, and there it was, the Cole residence, my old home. My fingers trembled slightly. Why would this body have that? I scrolled further. More photos. The same mansion, different angles, different days, some taken during the day, some at night. Then, one specific photo, taken from inside a car, focused on the front gate, and standing there, was Daniel. I stopped breathing. This wasn't coincidence. This body was already watching them, before I even woke up. A strange feeling crept into my chest. Not fear, not confusion, something darker, something sharper. Fate. No, this wasn't fate. This was opportunity. Whoever Ethan Carter was, he had already been close. Already observing, already involved, and now, I had his life, his identity, his position. I leaned back slowly against the hospital bed, a quiet smile forming on my lips. For the first time since I woke up, everything started making sense. They thought I was gone. They thought it was over. They thought they got away with it. But they were wrong. Very, very wrong. Because this time, I wasn't their son. I wasn't weak. I wasn't blind. This time, I was the one watching. And Daniel, my perfect brother, he had no idea that the person coming back for him was no longer human enough to forgive. I slowly locked the phone screen, closed my eyes, and whispered quietly to myself, let's see how long you can smile this time. Outside the window, the city lights of New York flickered in the distance. And for the first time, I wasn't the victim anymore. I was the beginning of their end. The first thing I did after leaving the hospital was not go home, because I didn't have one. Ethan Carter lived alone, small apartment, 3rd floor, no elevator, cheap neighborhood, the kind of place where nobody asks questions, because nobody cares enough to. Perfect. The moment I stepped inside, I knew something was wrong. Not messy, not dirty, organized, too organized. Everything had a place. Shoes aligned perfectly by the door, keys placed at the exact center of the table. Even the couch didn't have a single wrinkle. I stood there quietly for a few seconds, just looking. This wasn't normal behavior. This was controlled behavior, the kind of control that comes from someone who's always watching, or someone who's afraid of being watched. I closed the door behind me slowly, didn't turn on the lights immediately, just stood there in the dim evening glow coming through the window. And listened. Silence. No hidden movement, no breathing, no presence. Only then did I step further inside. I walked through the living room first, then the kitchen, then the bedroom. Everywhere I went, the same feeling followed me. Clean, precise, cold. This wasn't a home, this was a setup. I moved to the desk, opened the first drawer. Notebooks. 3 of them, all identical, all black. I picked one up, opened it. The first page was blank. The second page wasn't. Day 14. He left at 8:12 a.m. Returned at 10:47 p.m. My fingers paused. I flipped the page. Day 15. Same routine. No deviation. Another page. Day 16. Slight argument at the gate. Unknown cause. My heartbeat slowed. I already knew what this was. Surveillance. Detailed. Consistent. Obsessive. I flipped further. Faster this time. Dates. Times. Observations. Patterns. All of it focused on one place. One person. Daniel. I closed the notebook slowly. So this wasn't random. This body wasn't innocent. Ethan Carter had been watching Daniel. For weeks. Maybe months. Before I even woke up. Why? I moved to the second notebook. Opened it. Photos. Printed. Attached carefully. Angles. Distances. Timing notes. This wasn't curiosity. This was planning. The kind of planning that leads to one thing. An attack. I exhaled slowly. Interesting. Very interesting. I wasn't the only one who wanted Daniel. I turned to the third notebook. This one felt different. The moment I opened it, my fingers tightened slightly, because this one had names, not just Daniel, my father, my mother, their company, their security team, detailed, structured, connected. I scanned quickly, and then I saw it. A single line, written darker than the rest, like it had been pressed harder. The dinner is the key. My chest tightened. Dinner. The same night I died. I sat down slowly. This wasn't coincidence anymore. This body knew something, something important, something about that night. I leaned back slightly, closed my eyes, and replayed everything. The wine, the silence, the way they watched me. Then I remembered something, something small, something I ignored back then. There was a moment, right before I drank, a sound, a faint sound, like something clicking. My eyes snapped open. Camera. I stood up immediately, moved through the apartment faster this time, checking walls, corners, ceiling, nothing obvious. Then I stopped. The bookshelf. Too perfect. I walked toward it, ran my fingers along the edges. And then, I felt it. A slight shift. I pulled. The panel moved. Hidden compartment. Inside, was a small device. Black. Compact. A camera. My pulse slowed. This wasn't normal surveillance. This was someone who knew how to hide things. Someone trained. I checked the device. Memory card still inside. Of course. I removed it carefully. Walked to the desk. Inserted it into the laptop. The screen lit up. Folders appeared. Dated. Organized. I clicked the latest one. Video file. I pressed play. The screen flickered. Then, a room appeared. Familiar. Too familiar. The dining room. My old home. The angle was strange. Hidden. Like it was placed somewhere high. Watching everything. My breathing slowed. This was it. This was the night. The video continued. I saw them. My father. My mother. Daniel. And then, me. Sitting at the table. Smiling. Clueless. I clenched my jaw. I remembered this moment. But this time, I was watching it. From the outside. The dinner played out exactly as I remembered. The conversation. The laughter. The fake warmth. Then the wine. My father poured it. Just like before. I watched myself pick up the glass. And then, pause. I froze. That wasn't in my memory. That voice wasn't mine, wasn't my father's, wasn't my mother's, wasn't Daniel's. The video zoomed slightly, focused on Daniel, and then I saw it. Something I never noticed before. Daniel wasn't looking at me. He was looking at the camera, and he was smiling. Not the smile he gave me, not the one he showed our parents. This one was different, slow, knowing, like he was aware that someone was watching. My entire body went still, because in that moment, I understood something terrifying. This wasn't just about me. Daniel knew. He knew he was being watched. And he didn't stop anything. He let it happen. He let me die. On purpose. I leaned back slowly. The room suddenly felt colder. He wasn't just a replacement. He wasn't just favored. He was involved. Deeply involved. And now, this wasn't just revenge. This was a game. And Daniel had already been playing it. Long before I came back. I stared at the screen. At his smile. At that moment frozen in time. Then I whispered quietly, "Good. Because this time, I'm not the only one watching. And this time, I'm not the one dying." I didn't sleep that night. Not even for a second. The video kept replaying in my head, over and over again. Daniel's face, that smile, the way he looked directly at the camera, like he was greeting someone. Not surprised, not confused, acknowledging. That meant one thing. He knew someone was watching that night. And yet, he still let me drink the wine. No, that wasn't right. He didn't let me. He wanted me to. I sat at the edge of the bed, staring at the laptop screen long after the video had ended. The room was dark, quiet, but my mind, louder than ever, because something wasn't adding up. If Ethan Carter was watching them, then why didn't he stop it? Why record it? Why keep it? Unless he couldn't stop it. I leaned back slowly, closed my eyes, and for the first time, I stopped thinking like a victim, and started thinking like the person who recorded that video. Let's assume this. Ethan Carter knew something was going to happen. He placed a hidden camera. He monitored the house. He tracked Daniel's movements. He was preparing. But for what? To expose them? To blackmail them? Or to join them? My eyes opened slowly. No, that last one didn't feel right. Because if he was working with them, there would be no reason to hide the camera. No reason to secretly record everything. So that left one option. He was against them, just like me. A quiet smile formed on my lips. Interesting. Very interesting. It seemed I wasn't the only one who had a reason to go after the Cole family. But there was still one problem. Ethan Carter was dead, and I had no idea why. That meant one thing. If I wanted answers, I had to go back. Back to the place where everything ended. The next evening, I stood across the street from the Cole residence. The same mansion, the same gates, the same cold, silent presence. Nothing had changed. It looked exactly the same as it did the night I died. Clean, perfect, untouchable. I stayed in the shadows. Didn't move closer, just watched. Because this time, I wasn't walking in blindly. Cars came and went, security guards rotated shifts, lights turned on and off. Everything followed a pattern, just like the notebooks described. I checked the time, 8:12 p.m. The gate opened, a black car rolled in. I didn't need to see who it was. I already knew. Daniel. Even from a distance, I could feel it, that same presence. Calm, controlled, dangerous. The car stopped. The door opened. He stepped out. Same posture, same confidence, same expression. Nothing had changed, except one thing. This time, I wasn't standing beside him. I was watching him. I followed from a distance. Carefully, slowly, not getting too close, not drawing attention. He entered the house. I didn't, not yet. Instead, I circled around, moved toward the side of the property. There was a blind spot. I remembered it, a place where the cameras didn't fully cover. A small gap in their perfect security. Funny, I only noticed it after I died. I slipped through the side quietly. Heart steady, breathing controlled, every step measured. The closer I got, the stronger the memories became. The dining room, the table, the glass. The moment my body gave out, I stopped, just outside the back entrance. My hand hovered over the door. 3 years ago, I walked in through the front. Like I belonged there. This time, I entered like a stranger. The door wasn't locked. Of course it wasn't. This place had always relied on control, not caution. I stepped inside, and immediately, something felt wrong. Too quiet, not the normal silence of a big house. This was intentional, like the house itself was holding its breath. I moved slowly through the hallway. Every step echoed softly, too softly. Then I noticed it. The lights, dimmed, not off, not fully on, just enough to see, but not enough to feel safe. I stopped walking, listened, nothing, and that's when it hit me. This didn't feel like an empty house. It felt like a trap. My instinct screamed at me to leave, to turn around, to walk out and never come back. But I didn't move, because something else was pulling me forward. Answers. I continued, step by step, until I reached it. The dining room, the exact place I died. The table was still there. Same position, same chairs, even the chandelier above it looked unchanged. I walked closer, slowly, like I was approaching a grave. My hand brushed against the surface of the table. Cold, and then, back already. My entire body froze. That voice. I didn't turn around immediately. I didn't need to, because I already knew who was standing behind me. I slowly lifted my head, met my reflection in the glass cabinet across the room, and there he was, standing in the doorway, watching me. Daniel. His expression was calm, too calm, like he had been expecting me. For a long time. You took your time, he said lightly. A chill ran down my spine. That wasn't how someone reacts to a stranger breaking into their house. That was how someone greets someone they already know. I finally turned around, faced him directly. His eyes scanned me, slowly, carefully. Then, he smiled, not wide, not exaggerated, just enough to make it clear. He wasn't surprised. Ethan Carter, he said. My heart skipped. He knew this body. Of course he did. But then, he tilted his head slightly, and added, or should I say, a pause, just long enough to make my pulse spike. Welcome back. Everything went silent, because in that moment, I realized something far worse than I expected. Daniel didn't just know someone was watching that night. He knew who I was. And he had been waiting for me to come back. For a few seconds, I didn't move, not because I was scared, but because I was thinking. Daniel stood there, calm as ever, like nothing about this situation was strange. Like I wasn't standing in a house I broke into. Like he hadn't just greeted me as someone who had already died. Welcome back. Those two words kept echoing in my head. Not who are you, not why are you here. No confusion, no suspicion, just recognition. That meant one thing. This wasn't new to him. I exhaled slowly, let my shoulders relax. Then I looked at him properly. Same face, same posture, same controlled breathing. But now that I was paying attention, I noticed something different. His eyes, they weren't just calm. They were measuring me, like he was trying to confirm something. So, I finally spoke. My voice steady. You were expecting me. A small smile touched his lips. Not exactly, he said. More like, I was waiting to see when you'd show up. That answer was worse than anything else, because it confirmed everything he knew, not just about that night, but about this rebirth. I took a step forward. You knew I would come back. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he walked into the room. Slow, unhurried, like he had all the time in the world. You're different, he said, ignoring my question. His eyes stayed on me. Last time, you wouldn't have come in through the back. My fingers twitched slightly. He was comparing me now, to me before, and you definitely wouldn't have stood there thinking for 5 seconds before speaking, he added. I didn't react, didn't give him anything, but inside, I was already adjusting. Daniel wasn't guessing, he was analyzing, which meant, every word I said from this point on mattered. So you've been watching me too, I said calmly. He stopped walking, just for a second, then he smiled again. Of course, he said. No hesitation, no denial, that alone told me everything. He knew about Ethan Carter. He knew about the surveillance. And he didn't stop it. That meant one thing, he allowed it. I tilted my head slightly. Then why am I still alive? This time, he laughed, soft, quiet, but real. Because you weren't the target, he said. My heart slowed. That answer was unexpected. Not the target, I repeated. He nodded, then walked past me, straight to the table, the same table where I died. He placed his hand on it, lightly, almost, thoughtfully. You think too simply, he said. I didn't like that, not because it was insulting, but because it sounded like he knew something I didn't. Then explain it to me, I said. He turned slightly, looked at me from the side. Why would I kill you, just to get rid of you? I frowned. That's exactly what you did. He shook his head. No, he said quietly. Then he looked directly into my eyes, and for the first time, I saw something under that calm surface. Something darker. I killed you, he said, because you were in the way. The room went still. In the way of what? Before I could ask, careful where you step, my body reacted instantly. I stopped mid-step. What? I asked. Daniel didn't move, just looked down, at the floor. I followed his gaze, and that's when I saw it. A faint line, almost invisible, running across the floor. Wire. My breath slowed. Trap. I hadn't even noticed it. You're slipping, Daniel said calmly. I didn't respond, because he was right. If this had been before, I would have walked right into it. Just like I walked into that dinner. I stepped back slowly, carefully. What happens if I trigger it? I asked. He looked at me, then at the ceiling. Best case, he said. A loud noise. A pause. Worst case. He smiled slightly. You die again. Silence. I stared at him, and suddenly, everything made sense. This house wasn't just a home anymore. It was a battlefield, and I had just walked into it. Without understanding the rules, I took another step back. Slowly, carefully. You set this up, I asked. He shook his head. No. Then his gaze sharpened slightly. You did. My heart skipped. What? He nodded toward the floor. Ethan Carter, he said. Before you became him. The room felt colder. So this entire setup wasn't his. It was mine. Or rather, the person whose life I had taken over. I looked around the room again. The wires, the positioning, the layout, everything had been prepared, planned, executed, and I walked into it. Like a fool, Daniel watched me quietly. Then he spoke again. You really don't remember anything, do you? That question was dangerous, because if I answered wrong, I would expose everything. So instead, I smiled slightly. What do you think? I said. He stared at me, longer this time. Then, he laughed again. You've changed, he said. And for the first time since I came back, I realized something important. This wasn't just revenge anymore. This wasn't just about me dying. There was a bigger game here. One that started before I came back. One that Ethan Carter had already been playing. And Daniel, he wasn't the only opponent. He stepped aside slightly, gestured toward the room. Go ahead, he said. Look around. His smile widened just a little. Let's see how much you can figure out this time. I didn't move immediately, because now, I understood the situation clearly. This house wasn't where I died, it was where the truth started. And whatever I had walked into was far more dangerous than simple betrayal. I took a slow breath, then stepped forward again, carefully avoiding the wire, because this time, I wasn't walking in blind. I was stepping into a war, and I had just realized I might not be the most dangerous person in it. I didn't trust him, not for a second. Daniel standing there, calm, almost amused, telling me to look around, like this was some kind of game. It didn't sit right with me. People like him don't give information for free. They don't invite you to discover things. They wait, they watch, they let you walk into your own mistakes. And yet, I still moved forward, because curiosity is dangerous, but ignorance, worse. I stepped carefully into the room, avoiding the thin wire stretched across the floor. Now that I had seen one trap, I knew there would be more. There's never just one. I slowed my breathing, shifted my focus. Every detail mattered now. The floor, the ceiling, the walls, even the shadows. I moved toward the side cabinet first. The glass one, the same one I saw my reflection in earlier. I opened it slowly. Inside, nothing. But that was the problem. Too empty. I ran my fingers along the edges. There, a slight resistance. I pressed. Click. A hidden compartment slid open. Inside was a small device. Not a camera, not a recorder. Something else. I picked it up, turned it over. Cold metal, minimal design. Careful. Daniel's voice came from behind me. I didn't turn. Poison capsule, he added casually. My hand stopped. What? If you press it the wrong way, he said, it releases. A pause. Fast acting. I slowly put it back. Closed the compartment. My heartbeat had already started picking up. So that's what this was. Not surveillance. Not observation. Preparation. For killing. I turned slightly. You said I set this up, I said. Daniel nodded. Looks like it, he replied. I stared at him for a moment, trying to read him, but he was too controlled. So, I continued slowly, if this was my setup. I gestured lightly around the room. Then who was I planning to kill? Silence. Daniel didn't answer immediately. Instead, he walked closer. Not threatening, not aggressive, just curious. Then he stopped, right across from me. Who do you think? He asked quietly. I didn't hesitate. You. A small smile appeared on his face. Exactly. The word echoed in my head. So Ethan Carter was planning to kill Daniel. Not my parents, not the whole family, just him. But that didn't make sense. Because if that was true, why record the dinner? Why track everyone? Why go this far? There was something missing, and Daniel knew it. I could see it in his eyes. You're not confused about that part, he said. I can see it. I didn't respond, because he was right. That part was clear. What wasn't clear was everything else. So let me ask you something, he continued. His tone changed slightly, less casual, more serious. Why did you come back? That question wasn't simple. It wasn't curiosity. It was a test. I held his gaze, didn't look away. Why do you think? I said calmly. He watched me for a few seconds. Then, he nodded slowly. Revenge, he said. I didn't deny it. There was no point. Then you're already late, he added. That made my chest tighten slightly. Late, I repeated. He turned away from me. Walked toward the window. 3 years, he said. Do you know how much can change in 3 years? I stayed silent, because I was starting to understand where this was going. He looked outside, at the darkness beyond the glass. Then he spoke again. You think you came back into the same story, he said. But you didn't. A pause. You came back into the middle of it. My fingers curled slightly. That was not good. What happened after I died? I asked. He didn't turn around, but I saw it. The slight shift in his shoulders. Like he had been waiting for that question. A lot, he said. Then he finally looked back at me. And this time, his eyes weren't calm anymore. They were sharp, focused, like he was looking straight through me. You weren't the only one who died, he said. Everything went still. What? I asked. He stepped closer again, slow, measured, then stopped right in front of me. Close enough that I could hear his breathing. Ethan Carter, he said quietly. The original one. My heart dropped. He didn't die in an accident. A pause. He was killed. Silence filled the room, cold, heavy, because now, everything had changed. This wasn't just about me anymore. This body, this life I was living, was already part of the same game. And the person who owned it before me didn't survive it. I stared at Daniel, and for the first time since I came back, I felt something real, not fear, not anger, something worse, uncertainty, because now, I wasn't just chasing revenge. I was standing in the middle of something much bigger, something that had already claimed 2 lives, and I had just stepped right into it. Daniel smiled slightly, like he could see exactly what I was thinking. Still want to play? He asked. I didn't answer immediately, because the truth was, I didn't know if this was a game anymore. But one thing was certain. It was too late to walk away. So I looked him straight in the eye, and said quietly, I never left. His smile widened, and in that moment, I knew, whatever this was, it had only just begun. I didn't leave immediately. That was my first mistake. After everything Daniel said, after learning that Ethan Carter was murdered, after realizing I had walked into something far bigger than simple revenge, I should have walked out, regrouped, planned, but I stayed, because something about the way he spoke made it feel like leaving would be worse. Like turning my back would mean losing control. And right now, control was the only thing keeping me alive. Daniel moved away from me slowly, like he wasn't worried about me attacking. Like he knew I wouldn't. Or worse, like he knew I couldn't. He walked to the far end of the dining room and leaned casually against the table. The same table where I died. That detail wasn't lost on him. I could tell. He was doing it on purpose. You're thinking too much, he said. I didn't respond, because I was. Every word he said, every movement, every pause, I was breaking it all down. You think this is about revenge, he continued. I looked at him. Isn't it? He smiled faintly. That's the surface. Surface. That word stuck. What's underneath? I asked. He didn't answer directly. Instead, he pushed himself off the table and started walking slowly around the room. Like he was giving a lecture. Or setting a stage. Let me ask you something, he said. I didn't like where this was going. But I let him continue. When you died, he said, what did you think was happening? I frowned slightly. I was being killed. He nodded. By who? My family. Another nod. And why? I paused. Because that question wasn't as simple as it sounded. Because they chose you, I said. Daniel stopped walking. Then he turned to face me. And for the first time, he looked disappointed. That's what you saw, he said. My chest tightened slightly. And what I saw? I asked. He tilted his head, studied me for a moment. Then he said something that made my entire body go cold. They were afraid of you. Silence. That didn't make sense. What? I asked slowly. They weren't choosing me over you, he continued. They were protecting themselves. My mind rejected it immediately. No, I said. That's not, you think too small, he interrupted calmly. I clenched my jaw, because now, he was pushing something I didn't understand. Then explain it, I said. He walked closer again, slower this time, more deliberate. You think your life was normal, he said. But it wasn't. A pause. You were being watched long before Ethan Carter showed up. My heartbeat stopped for a second. By who? I asked. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he looked up, at the ceiling, then back at me. The same people who are watching you right now. Every instinct in my body screamed at once. I didn't think. I reacted. My head snapped upward, scanning. Corners, lights, shadows, nothing obvious. But that didn't mean anything. Because if there were cameras here, they wouldn't be obvious. You feel it now, don't you? Daniel said quietly. I slowly lowered my gaze back to him. And I hated it, because he was right. That feeling, that constant pressure I couldn't explain since I woke up. It wasn't paranoia, it was real. Who are they? I asked. He smiled slightly. That's the wrong question. My patience was starting to thin. Then what's the right one? I said coldly. He stepped closer, close enough that his voice dropped lower. Why are they interested in you? That question hit harder than anything else. Because I didn't have an answer. And he knew it. You died once, he continued. And yet, here you are. A pause. You don't think that's strange? Of course it was. But hearing it like that, it felt different. He wasn't saying it like it was impossible. He was saying it like it was expected. You think you're special? He asked suddenly. I didn't answer. Because I didn't know. He laughed softly. That's the problem, he said. You don't know what you are. The room felt heavier, like the air itself had changed. And until you figure that out, he stepped back slightly. You're just another piece on the board. Piece, game, board. He kept using those words. Not metaphorically, literally. I exhaled slowly, then asked the one question that mattered now. And you? He tilted his head. What about me? Where do you stand in all this? A pause. Then, for the first time since I saw him again, his smile disappeared, completely. I'm trying to survive, he said. No arrogance, no sarcasm, just truth. And that was more terrifying than anything else. Because if someone like Daniel was just trying to survive, then whatever this was far worse than I imagined. He turned away slightly, then added, if you want to live. A pause. Stop thinking like a victim. I stared at him, and slowly, something inside me shifted, because he was right about one thing. This wasn't about revenge anymore. This was survival, and I had already died once. I wasn't planning on doing it again. I straightened slightly, met his gaze again, and said quietly, then teach me the rules. A small smile returned to his face. Good, he said, because at that moment, I stopped being the person who was killed, and became the person who plays the game. Daniel didn't answer immediately. When I said, teach me the rules, he just stood there, watching me. Not surprised, not impressed, measuring, like he was deciding whether I was worth the effort. The silence stretched. 5 seconds, 10, maybe more. Then he exhaled quietly. You're already breaking the first rule, he said. I frowned slightly. Which is? He smiled. Don't trust anyone. I didn't react, but inside, I noted it, because that wasn't advice. That was a warning, and that includes you, I said. His smile widened slightly. Good, he replied. That meant I passed something. A test. He walked past me again, slower this time, like he had decided something. Come, he said. I hesitated for half a second. Then followed. We left the dining room, moved into the hallway. The lights were still dim, the silence still unnatural, but now that I knew this place was filled with traps, every step felt heavier. Watch your footing, Daniel said casually. I didn't respond, but I adjusted immediately. I started paying attention to the floor patterns, the slight differences in tile color, the unnatural gaps. There, a pressure plate, barely visible. I stepped around it. Better, he said behind me. So this was part of it. Training, or testing, maybe both. We reached the living room, and the moment I stepped in, I stopped. This room wasn't like the rest of the house. The dining room was elegant, controlled. This, destroyed, furniture overturned, glass shattered, walls scratched. It looked like a fight had happened here. A violent one. My eyes moved slowly across the space, taking everything in. What happened here? I asked. Daniel didn't answer immediately. Instead, he walked past me, stepped over broken glass like it wasn't even there. Then he stopped near the center of the room. This, he said quietly, is where Ethan Carter died. My chest tightened instantly. So it wasn't an accident. He wasn't hit by a car. He died here, in this house. I stepped further in, slowly, carefully. The damage was worse up close. Deep marks on the wall, like something had been slammed into it. A cracked table leg, blood, faint, but still there. My breathing slowed. This wasn't a simple kill. This was a struggle, a desperate one. He fought back, I said. Daniel nodded slightly, harder than I expected. I froze. You killed him. There was no denial, no hesitation. Yes, he said. The word landed heavily. So now, I knew, the person whose life I was living was killed by the same person standing in front of me. And yet, here I was, talking to him, learning from him. That thought alone should have made me attack him, or leave, but I didn't, because something didn't add up. You said I wasn't the target before, I said slowly, and now you're telling me you killed him. I stepped closer. So which is it? Daniel looked at me, and this time, he didn't smile. He got too close, he said. That answer Felt real, not like the others. He figured something out, Daniel continued. Something he wasn't supposed to. A pause, and instead of walking away, he looked directly at me. He came here. The implication was clear, just like I did, and that's why he died, I said. Daniel nodded. Yes. Silence filled the room again. But this time, it felt different. He wasn't hiding it, he wasn't lying, he was showing me. Then why am I still alive? I asked again. This time, he answered immediately. Because you're more useful than he was. My eyes narrowed slightly. Useful. He walked toward me slowly. Stopped just in front of me. Then said something that made everything shift again. He worked alone. A pause. You don't have to. I stared at him. Because now, I understood. This wasn't just training. This was an offer. A partnership. You want me to work with you, I said. He didn't deny it. Didn't confirm it either. Just looked at me. Think about it, he said quietly. You want answers. You want revenge. And you want to survive. Another step closer. So do I. The air between us felt heavy. Because this was the turning point. Trust him, or fight him. Both options were dangerous. But one of them would get me closer to the truth. I exhaled slowly, then said, I don't trust you. A small smile returned to his face. Good, he said. Then he extended his hand slightly. Because if you did, a pause, you'd already be dead. I looked at his hand. Then back at his face. And slowly, I reached out, but I didn't shake it. Not yet, because I had one more question. Who are we fighting? I asked. This time, his expression changed. Not fear, not hesitation, something deeper, something serious. And then he said the one thing that made me realize just how far this went. We don't know. Silence, cold, heavy, because that meant everything we had seen so far, everything we thought we understood, was only a small part of something much bigger. I finally let my hand meet his, not as trust, but as necessity, because from this moment on, I wasn't alone anymore, and neither was he. His hand was cold, not lifeless, not weak, controlled, the kind of grip that didn't try to dominate, but didn't allow you to either. We held it for a second longer than necessary. Not a handshake, a silent agreement, temporary, fragile, and very easy to break. I pulled my hand back first. Now what? I asked. Daniel didn't answer immediately. Instead, he turned away and walked toward the broken window at the far end of the living room. He looked outside, like he was checking something. Or someone. Now, he said quietly. We stopped standing in the open. That line hit me instantly. I felt it again. That same pressure. That same invisible weight pressing down on me. Watching, I turned slightly, scanned the room again, but this time, I wasn't looking for traps. I was looking for eyes. Too late for that, I said. Daniel shook his head. No, he replied calmly. Then he looked at me. It's never too late to disappear. Before I could ask what he meant, the lights went out, everything dropped into darkness. Complete, sudden, my body reacted instantly. I stepped back, lowered my stance, listening. No panic, no wasted movement, just silence. Then, click, a faint red glow appeared. Near the ceiling, then another, and another. 3 small dots, not random, lenses, cameras. They're active now, Daniel said quietly. My chest tightened. Now, they weren't watching before, he said. A pause. Now they are. That meant one thing. We triggered something. What did we do? I asked. Daniel didn't respond immediately. Instead, he walked toward the center of the room. Like he wasn't worried about being seen anymore. They've been waiting, he said. For what? I pressed. He looked at me, and for the first time, there was no calm in his eyes. Only focus. For you to come back. The words hit harder than anything else. Because that meant, this wasn't random. My return was expected. Before I could process it, a sharp sound cut through the silence. Beep. Then another. Beep. And then, a voice. Distorted. Cold. Subject confirmed. My entire body went still. Reactivation successful. I didn't move. Didn't speak. Because that voice wasn't coming from the room. It was coming from everywhere. Walls. Ceiling. Air itself. You were right, the voice continued. Observation phase 1 complete. Daniel didn't react. Didn't even flinch. Like he had heard this before. Then the voice said something that made my blood run cold. Proceeding to phase 2. Silence. Then, click. The red lights disappeared. The room went dark again. And just like that, it was over. I exhaled slowly. What the hell was that? I asked. Daniel finally moved. He walked past me, toward the hallway. Now you understand rule 2, he said. I followed him. Don't be seen, I muttered. He nodded once. We moved quickly now. No hesitation. No wasted motion. Because whatever that was, it had just confirmed something important. We weren't just investigating anymore. We had been found. We reached the back exit. Daniel pushed the door open. Cool night air hit instantly. Fresh, real, but even that didn't feel safe anymore. We stepped outside, moved away from the house. Didn't stop until we were a full block away. Only then did we slow down. I turned to him. You knew, I said. He didn't deny it. I suspected, he replied, that they were watching you. I clenched my jaw. What do they want? This time, he didn't answer immediately. Instead, he looked back at the house. Then said quietly, they don't want you. A pause. They want what you are. My chest tightened again. Which is? He finally looked at me. And this time, there was no hesitation, no idea, silence, because that answer was worse than anything else. We were being watched, tracked, studied, and we didn't even know why. I looked down at my hands. At this body, this life, then back at him. So what now? I asked. Daniel's expression hardened slightly. Now, he said, we disappear. A pause, and then, a faint smile returned. We start hunting. Something shifted inside me again. Because for the first time since I came back, I wasn't reacting, I was preparing. Whatever this was, whoever was watching us, they just made a mistake. Because now, I knew they existed, and that meant, they could be found. I took one last look at the house, at the place where I died, then turned away, because the real fight had just started. We didn't go back to my apartment. That was the first decision we made. Or rather, the first decision he made. Anywhere you've been before is compromised, Daniel said as we walked. No hesitation, no debate, like this wasn't his first time disappearing. So we kept moving, no destination, no pattern, just distance. The city felt different at night. Not quieter, not calmer, just sharper. Every sound carried meaning, every shadow felt intentional. We walked for nearly an hour before he finally stopped. An old building, half abandoned, lights flickering in only a few windows. Temporary, he said. I didn't argue, because right now, temporary was better than predictable. We entered through the side. Broken door, no lock. Inside, it smelled like dust and old wood. Forgotten. Good. We climbed to the second floor. Found a room with a working door. Bare, empty, safe enough. Daniel checked the windows first. Then the corners, then the ceiling. Methodical, experienced, clear, he said finally. I leaned against the wall. For the first time since leaving the house, I let myself breathe, but it didn't last, because now that we had stopped moving, the questions came back, stronger, louder. I looked at him. We need to talk. He nodded. I know. Silence filled the room for a moment. Then I asked the one thing that had been building since the voice spoke. What did it mean? Daniel didn't pretend not to understand. Phase 2, he said. I nodded. What is that? He exhaled slowly, ran a hand through his hair, and for the first time, he looked tired. I don't know exactly, he admitted. That wasn't reassuring, but I've heard it before, he added. My chest tightened. When? He looked at me. The night you died, everything went still. You heard that voice before? I asked. He nodded once. It wasn't as clear, he said. But it was there. A pause. Watching. That changed everything. Because that meant, this wasn't new. They had always been there. Even before I died. So they planned it, I said slowly. Daniel didn't answer directly, but his silence was enough. They let it happen, I continued. And now they're moving to the next step. Still no denial. I let out a slow breath. Then asked the question that mattered most. What are we to them? Daniel looked at me, longer this time, then said quietly, not people. A pause. Subjects. That word felt heavier than anything else. Because it stripped everything away. My death, my rebirth, all of it, was part of something controlled. I pushed off the wall. No, I said. Daniel raised an eyebrow slightly. I'm not staying a subject, I added. A faint smile appeared on his face. Good, he said. Then he walked to the center of the room, and crouched down. I watched as he reached into his jacket, pulled something out, a small device, different from the one in the house. This one looked military. What is that? I asked. A problem, he replied. He placed it on the ground, turned it on. The screen lit up, lines, signals, movement. I stepped closer. What am I looking at? He tapped the screen once. Activity radius, he said. I focused, and then I saw it. Dots, multiple, surrounding us, not close, but not far either. My chest tightened instantly. Are those us? He said. I froze. What? He pointed. One is me. Then he pointed again. One is you. My heartbeat spiked. And the rest? He didn't hesitate. Them. Silence. Cold. Heavy. Because that meant, we weren't hiding. We weren't escaping. We were being tracked. And not just by one. Multiple. They were never hiding, Daniel said quietly. They were waiting. My fists clenched slowly. For what? He looked at me. And this time, his answer was immediate. For you to wake up. The weight of that settled in my chest. Because now, everything made sense. The observation, the silence, the delay. They weren't inactive. They were watching, waiting. For this exact moment, I stared at the screen, at the dots surrounding us, closing in, and for the first time since I came back, I felt it clearly. This wasn't a mystery anymore. This was a hunt, and we were the targets. I looked up at Daniel. So what do we do? I asked. He stood up slowly, his expression calm again, controlled. Then he said something that made my pulse steady instead of spike. We stop running, a pause, and we start choosing where the fight happens. I stared at him for a second, then nodded, because he was right. If we kept running, we'd just get cornered. But if we chose the battlefield, we had a chance. I looked at the screen again, at the dots, then back at him. Then let's pick a place, I said. A faint smile appeared on his face. Already did, he replied. And just like that, the game changed again.